Thank you so much for coming out today. I'm Emily Huggard. I know most of you now, I think, from the MPS community. I'm an assistant professor of fashion communication here in the School of Fashion, and I'm associate director of culture and partnerships for the MPS. So I just want to welcome our MPS fashion management community and the wider TNS and Parsons community to this event. And we are thrilled today to welcome designer Diane Von Furstenberg and Nicolai, who is curator and author of the book Diane Von Furstenberg, Women Before Fashion. In conversation with Parsons faculty members Jeff Carley and Alexis Romano. Women Before Fashion is a tribute to the creative vision and feminist philosophy of Diane Von Furstenberg and her eponymous brand, whose iconic wrap dress, created 50 years ago, remains a conduit of personal expression and self-empowerment for women across the globe. I know we said that the first 25 to attend will be getting a book, but we thought that would create some mayhem, so we do have a different format, but we will be giving out copies of the book at the end of the event, which is very exciting. So I just, before our panel comes down, I just want to go over their bios, and they're all incredible humans, so they have very long bios, so bear with me. So we start with Diane. Diane Von Furstenberg is a fashion designer, philanthropist, author, and founder and chairwoman of the company that bears her name. She has continued her legacy as a supporter and empowerer of emerging female leaders through her philanthropy. In 2010, with the Diller Von Furstenberg Family Foundation, Diane established the DVF Awards to honor and provide grants to women who have displayed leadership, strength, and courage in their commitment to their causes. In 2005, the CFDA awarded her a Lifetime Achievement Award, and she went on to chair the council from 2006 to 2019. In 2015, she was named one of Time's 100 Most Influential People, and in September of 2019, she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame for her leadership and achievements, which have changed the course of history. In 2020, France awarded her the Chevalier de la Légion d'Honneur, and in 2021, she received the Commandeur de l'Ordre de la Couronne. Apologies, I am Canadian, so I should be better at this. Her most recent recognition was in March of 2022, when she received the Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg Women of Leadership Award for remarkable leadership and dedication to women. So Diane will be welcomed today by Nicolai Lohr, and Nicolai is the head of exhibitions and publications at the Fashion and Lace Museum, an independent curator and researcher of Chinese and Western contemporary fashion, and also the author of this book. His first research work on material and historical matters in fashion, textiles, and fabrics brought him to collaborate with the most famous luxury houses since 2013, Chloe, Chanel, Maison Margiela, and Christian Dior Couture. Since 2021, Lohr holds the position of head of exhibitions and publications at the Brussels Fashion and Lace Museum. He is in charge of exhibitions, themes, schedules, and coordination, as well as exhibition curations. Here, he curated Women Before Fashion, Diane Von Furstenberg. Lohr is also known for his research on Chinese costume and Chinese fashion design. He brought these two together for a first exhibition truly dedicated to the question of fashion in China, the New Momentum, China Contemporary Fashion at the Shanghai Textile Museum in 2017, and its related book. And our two faculty members who will be leading the discussion today, I think most of you as well know Jeff Carley. Jeff Carley is a Haitian-American creative who wears many hats as creative director, designer, and professor. As a creative director, Jeff Carley launched his own independent label, Unique Exposure, while also collaborating with renowned brands such as Baron & Baron, Alice & Olivia, Zegna, and more. Holding 2 master's degrees in strategy design and fashion management from Parsons School of Design, he teaches fashion design, entrepreneurship, and fashion culture at Parsons and Glasgow Caledonian New York College. His capstone work, I Am Creative Too, an intersectional approach to understanding the cost of racism in fashion, serves as an introduction to his commitment to driving change in the industry. His work in design and creative direction has been acknowledged and featured by prestigious publications such as WWD, CFDA's Future Fashion Designer Showcase. He's been featured in Creatively, Vogue, One Granary, amongst others. And most recently, he curated our New York Fashion Week show for the MFA FDS program at the Brooklyn Museum. And finally, Alexis Romano, who will also be hosting alongside Jeff. Alexa teaches fashion studies at Parsons School of Design and actually also contributed to the book. So we have a nice round out of people. Her work explores 20th century fashion, photography, women's history, and everyday and subjective aspects of dress, seen in her book, Pret-a-Porter, Paris and Women, A Cultural Study of French Ready-Made Fashion, 1945 to 68, and that's with Bloomsbury, and her exhibition, Staten Island Mode, Identity, Memory, Fashion, which is now on view at Newhouse Center for Contemporary Art. Okay, welcome our panelists.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Great. We're so excited to have you. We're really excited for this conversation. We're sitting here with an icon, right? I'm honored to be here, to be representing MPS Fashion Management. My name is Jeff Carly Joulard, Creative Director, External Coordinator, and alumni from MPS Fashion Management. I'm sitting next to my lovely co-host, Alexis Romano.
So great to be here. Welcome.
Yes. So we're going to take you on a journey today. We're going to talk about Diane, who she is, the brand, Nicolai, the book, and how we got here. To start, though, I wanted to take us back just for one moment. If you could take us back to the moment or experience that inspired you to start this wonderful career.
That's a long, long time ago. Well, for one thing, when I was growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew the kind of woman I wanted to be. So I went for the feeling of being a full woman and being able to pay my bills, and that's the feeling that I wanted to get. I got into the fashion business first as the fashion image, the image of fashion. I got a job as an intern for a photographer's agent. It was in Paris, and at the time he had an hôtel particulier, had a little house in Paris in the 16th arrondissement. He represented the very best photographers. He represented Jean-Louis Sieur from Helmut Newton and David Bowie and Harry Richardson. I mean, really wonderful photographers. And so my first encounter with fashion was the image of fashion. We used to, make the books and go to advertising agencies. And so it was the image of fashion. It was the photography, the models, the makeup, the magazine, the advertising. And then I met a man, an Italian man, who said, fashion, you should find out where we make fashion. And he invited me to come to visit him in his factory, and he had a printing mill. I mean, he was printing scarves, Muocomo, for all the big names like Ferragamo and Gucci and people like that. And so there I learned everything about, because you work with colorists. And at that time in industrial Italy, the colorist, the father was a colorist, the grandfather was a colorist. So I learned all about how you make a print, how you take an illustration and turn it into a print, the different techniques of prints and so on. And he was very successful. And at that time that I was there, he needed more space for his factory. So he bought the factory next door where they made stockings. So you're all too young, but women wear pantyhoses. But before they wore pantyhoses, they wore stockings. And because the pantyhose was born, all of a sudden, it's a long story, but all of a sudden nobody wanted stockings anymore. So these people sold the walls of their factory, and this man Ferretti bought the factory for the walls. And when we walked in there were all these knitting machines, tubular knitting machines. He said, "What could we do with these tubular knitting machines?" And he called in the yarn manufacturers, and we experimented these knitting machines with thicker yarn. And that's how he invented this jersey fabric. So the jersey fabric and the print, and I was there at that time. When you begin life, and since most of you are students, I really want to tell you that you never know which is going to be your door. And the door may not be the one that is the most glamorous. That certainly was not a glamorous door, my door. But it turned out that I was there at the time, and I saw this happen, and then, Jersey, and you print Jersey. And then I came to New York. My mother gave me a ticket to come and visit my boyfriend who lived in New York. And I fell in love with New York, and I couldn't believe it. In New York, there was all a different kind of fashion. There was Stephen Burrows and Giorgio Santangelo, and I saw a whole kind of different fashion, especially Stephen Burrows and Giorgio Santangelo. So when I went back to work, all I could think about is, how do I go back to New York? And when I went back to the factory, all of a sudden I thought, ooh, maybe I can make samples here that I could try to sell in America. And that's how it all happened.
You saw an opportunity and took it.
Yes, exactly.
See the opportunity, seize it.
Exactly.
And they're not always glamorous. That is, I think, one thing you should know is but I just happen to be there, and it's very important to be very open.
Yeah, you seize an opportunity, and you saw a gap in the fashion industry in New York, taking ideas from what you learned in Europe, your background.
And also I was a young girl. I was 22 years old, so I thought, what I would want for myself. I was the person I designed for, basically. I mean, I was everything. I tried it on me, the whole thing. So, yeah.
And your eye for prints really carried you through, from that moment through your.
And I still make them. I never, ever, ever thought that I would continue. And still today, to this day, I walk in nature. I would take pictures. It becomes a print. Yesterday I was walking and I saw this miraculous circle, perfect circle of mushroom, but a complete circle as big as this table. I could show it to you. And I just kept on thinking, how did they come all in circle? But it will be a print.
Yeah.
I remember what you were telling me when we had a phone conversation a few months ago around the book, about being inspired by nature, but also the movement of the woman's body in.
But every pattern in nature has movement, whether it is the bark of a tree, whether it is a leaf, whether it is the spot on a fish, or obviously on a leopard. I mean, it always has a movement, and of course when you put that movement on especially on a jersey dress that carries the body, then it takes it's flattering to the body.
It's almost like a cerebral approach to your design process. You see nature, human body as one and not separate.
I mean, for me, nature is everything, I mean, my big hero is Leonardo da Vinci, right? I mean, he invented everything. He was talented. He was smart. He was everything. And I read somewhere there was a biography of him, and apparently the thing he was the proudest of is that he could read nature. Because I think in nature you have every formula of everything. Oh, this is my first little swatches of the prints. This is really old. By the way, she is wearing, get up. She is wearing a dress that is probably 52 years old.
And I've been wearing it for like the last 10 years. So very timeless. Nature and your work are incredibly timeless.
And it held. I mean, you don't have holes.
There was something that you mentioned, a real nugget that I stuck out. And you mentioned your mother and how, I guess, gave you the opportunity to come to New York, right? And I was interested in, could you tell us about your mother and her life learnings she shared with you?
My mother, but it's gonna get so depressing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, 18 months before I was born, my mother was in a concentration camp. She had been there. She was a prisoner of the worst possible camps for 13 months. And 18 months before I was born, she was liberated, and she weighed 29 kilos, 49 pounds. She was she was just bones. But somehow she survived. And so she came back home. Her parents couldn't believe that she came back. She came back, and her mother fed her like a little bird. Every 5 minutes, give her a little bit of food. And after 6 months, she was normal again. Her fiancé, who had spent the war in Switzerland, came back. They got married, and the doctor said, you have to wait at least 2 or 3 years before you have a child, because you won't make it, and your child will not be normal. And sure enough, I was born 9 months later. And maybe I was not totally normal. And anyway, so I think, and I didn't realize all of that, but as I grew up and as I grew older and older and older, I realized that the fact that my birth was a triumph, that won over misery. I mean, even though my mother didn't really talk about it, but I mean, I have that in my genes. So honoring life is the most important thing for me to do. But
I love that.
Yes, thank you for sharing that personal anecdote. I mean, I think throughout your career,
actually, I shared it on Instagram today. And it was very painful to write it, actually. So I'm a little moved, but because with all of the things that are happening right now, I just felt I had, and so I didn't know how to deal with it, and then I just wrote it. So I exercised myself the best I could.
I think we thank you for that. The vulnerability in your voice, yes. The vulnerability in your voice, the vulnerability with all of us in this room at this current time is understandable. But even tying that back to design, being vulnerable in design, being vulnerable about the body, right? Talks to you and talks to the brand. And I want to now talk about the brand and the iconic wrap dress, which was created over 50 years ago, right? That is amazing. 50 years ago, we've known everyone in our family that's worn that piece, right? Could you talk to us when you was designing that? Like, what were you considering? Who were you considering?
God. First of all, it was a wrap top. My first dress was t-shirt dress, polo dress, a shirt dress, and then there was this little wrap top, which was a little bit like what the ballerinas wear over their tutu. and I made that with pants and with a skirt, and it sold really well. And it had a very thick belt, and so I thought we should do it as a dress. And I remember very well working with Bruna, and we came up with this dress. And I don't know. I mean, that dress was just magical. I mean, I know I created the wrap dress, but really, it's the dress that created me, because it's the dress that made me independent. The dress that allowed me to pay my bills. It's the dress that gave me freedom. And because it was a dress, I shared my confidence with other women wearing the dress. So the dress became a symbol of liberation, because it was also a time of liberation, women's liberation. So the dress became a symbol, and I was like the conduit. So it was this thing that manifested, and every woman, especially in America, wore the dress. And and I was 26 years old, and I would make 25,000 dresses a week. That's 50,000 sleeves. That's Bruna. And she was so happy, because now we have to introduce Nicholas, because Nicholas is a fashion historian. Is that what you say? And a fashion historian and a fashion curator. And he, 2 years ago, he got the job to be the curator of the fashion museum of my native town of Brussels. And he got that job, and he was the first curator, and he decided that he would make an exhibition on me. And so he called me, and we talked on the phone, and I said, "How old are you?" And he said, 28. I said, 28? And you want to do an exhibition on me? Why? And maybe we should ask you why.
Yes, we would love to, first of all, congratulate Nicolai on an amazing exhibition and book. And yes, can you tell us about your concept for the show, and why you chose Diane as your first exhibition subject?
So it's working, yes. At the very beginning, I arrived in Brussels, 2 years ago. Basically 2 years ago, exactly. And I didn't have much knowledge about Brussels fashion. I knew a lot about fashion in Belgium, the Six of Antwerp, Margiela, etc., etc. But I didn't know much about Brussels. So I did a few research about that subject. I knew about Diane, obviously, from my fashion history classes. And when I did my research about Brussels fashion, I saw Diane Von Furstenberg, and I was like, who wrote this? Diane is not from Belgium, she's from America. And I was wrong. I mean, everyone here knows that she's basically from Belgium. I did not remember that, because I definitely associated Diane's figure to New York. I mean, for everyone in Europe, she's the New Yorker, definitely, as you said it in your article, Alexis, right? And so I started to wonder how one item from fashion, that is the wrap dress and the wardrobe that Diane created, can be still so relevant 50 years after. I mean, that's a unicum in fashion. You never see that, basically. And so I thought about, what will I say? What will I show? What will I curate in this exhibition? Because everyone thinks about the wrap dress. And I had this wheel of discovering what was behind the wrap dress itself. And I discovered so many, many, many identities. I mean, the brand and Diane are so multifaceted in a way.
Too many.
Too many, yeah. it was really hard to put everything together and to create something that was, representing all of that. And I had Diane on the phone, I think on February 2022, and we met after in Brussels, and she invited me, as she said, to Cloudwalk in her archives, where I saw all the potential, of the DNA and the legacy of DVF. And I think we agreed on most part of the exhibitions together from the very beginning. I didn't want it to be a whole wrap dress or wrap idea exhibition, but more a way of discovering Diane's DNA and part of story from her career and personal life. And so the title came up, Woman Before Fashion. It's the same as the one of the book. I think we had a conversation in Connecticut, and you said, but for me, it's always Woman Before Fashion. And I said, that's the title of the exhibition. Everything I thought about before the parcours of the exhibition, it's really that. So the exhibition is really an introduction to the wrap dress, small story about the wrap dress, connecting the wrap dress to other archetypes in fashion, to put everything in perspective, and then going through inspirations, not of all of them, but mainly nature, art, and freedom, which is basically your main inspiration also. And then something that is quite unusual for European people to learn about, which is the American dream. It's not something we see most of the time in exhibitions in Paris or even in London or Brussels. And the exhibition ends with the woman, with wearable and we are able stories coming back from the dress to the woman. So it's really a way of discovering your DNA, I would say.
He did a really good job. The exhibition is great. And it's very nice when you can detach yourself and you're not actually involved, and you're just the subject. And then we did. And then I said, you should do the book. And I introduced him to a publisher. I said, but it's your book. So it's his first exhibition, which opened in April in Brussels and will close on January 7, and his first book. So it's very exciting.
And hopefully, thank you for taking us through the show. Hopefully it will travel to New York because this is wishful thinking. I don't know anything, but we need to see it.
There's a saying in French that no one is prophet in their own land. So it took me a long time to become a prophet in my hometown, so. And then this is my second hometown, so we'll see.
Could you tell us what you hope visitors will get and leave with from the exhibition?
They will have an understanding about what an actual wrap dress is about, really. And also discover the way, I would say, how Diane that's something I was saying from the beginning, not a fashion designer, but a designer in the field of fashion. Because trends are really something that is far from DVF, and that's something you can understand in the exhibition, something that is, in a perpetual movement and timeless at the same time. And how she decided to create an item in fashion that is reproducible, inexpensive, affordable for women, and at the same time very comfortable, practical, versatile.
Uniform. It's a real uniform.
Exactly. And not only the wrap dress, the DVF wardrobe.
I have absolutely no shame or embarrassment to say that I love uniforms, and because uniforms are very practical. They are, art is about emotion. Design is about function. And so when you hit on, so I love the comfort. And when I say a woman before fashion, because what's the most important thing is the woman feels great in it. Because what makes a woman beautiful is eye contact, smile, and body language. I really love body language. And that's one of the things that you can recognize in anything that has my name it has body language. And you know that women follow morphology of their body. If they have a small waist, they will love a wrap. If they don't, they will go fluid. If they, it's all about morphology. And it's very much what I follow is the woman. And because my best design ideas always come when I pack. Always. And I pack every 3 days. Because when you pack, you think, oh, if I take this, I could wear it with that, and I could wear it with this, and I can wear it with that. And in our design, we have color palettes, huge color bank, and so you could wear something from a few seasons ago or later. I mean, it's very timeless. I mean, and maybe it's because I started to design in the 70s, and the 70s and the 30s are the 2 decades that somehow don't go out of style. If I had started in the 80s, that'd be a problem. But, so I don't know, but the timelessness and the effortless and the ready to go, the packable, the easy, and not feeling uncomfortable or not feeling, those are the things that those are the guidelines.
I think that speaks to you as a visionary, and I wasn't born in the 70s, y'all, but
When were you born? In 2000?
Maybe close. But I'm not sure if brands were considering an audience particularly like you were. You saw a problem within the market for the woman, for the body, for the experience, and you spoke to that customer. You spoke to that audience.
I was that customer. I was a young woman who wanted to be effortless, timeless, on the go. I wanted to have a man's life in a woman's body. I wanted to have the advantage of being a woman, a guy. I was a girl, but I never called myself a girl because I wanted to be a woman. And so I wanted to be that woman. And I became that woman. And because I was designing dresses, I became that woman that made those dresses, and I shared those dresses with everyone. So it was a lot of energies that crossed at the same time.
Yeah, I think that, as you're explaining so beautifully, your identity, but also your shared gender identity, your connection with your clientele is so central to your brand identity. And Nicolai, I think you did a wonderful job in the book of exposing stories, interviewing people who knew Diane, who know Diane.
He's wearing a wrap dress, and he's wearing a DVF top.
Oh, I didn't know it was a wrap. In expert layering and styling, Nicolai, I have to say. So yeah, I was wondering how you tried to show this collaborative, spirit of DVF in the exhibition. Were you thinking about showing how the wear experience at all?
It's a miracle. I mean, this was his first exhibition, and at the same time, and this museum is a very small museum with very little budget, and so he made the exhibition, and at the same time, he made this book, and the book is really good. I mean, I can say it because I didn't do it, and the book is really very, very informative, inspiring, and it has a lot of information. and he hired wonderful people to contribute to it. So it's a serious book, I think.
But also, everyone must buy this book. It is also a treasure trove of images from your archive, anyway, and the writing in addition.
It's really an extension. I mean, it's a way for you to discover many stories that are in the exhibition, but it is an extension of it. I did the exhibition myself. I curated it. I did many interviews. I mean, you did many things for the exhibition because you talked to me a lot. I curated the exhibition, and I wanted to curate the book the same way, but giving some space to other people, women, brilliant women, to describe DVF, fashion specialists to describe DVF in their own words, with a perspective too. And at the same time, having this joyful idea of the brand and of DVF herself. And it's a funny object because you have so many different types of paper, so many different sizes, and it's sensual. It's sensual. It's surprising, but as you said, at the same time, it's very informative as an academic point of view. Really.
Yeah, I think the woman, the body. You talk so much, the book and the exhibition. You talk so much about being the woman and becoming the woman you want to be.
Having been the woman.
Having been the woman. Could you expound on that?
What? On having been the woman?
No. The difference between becoming and being the woman you want to be.
Ooh. Well, before anything, you have to visualize the woman you want to be, right? So first you have to visualize, and my visualizing was very much a woman on the go. Yeah, that was probably, boom, the idea. And on the go I was, because the factories were in Italy. I lived in New York. I had 2 children in 1 year. So it was a lot of shuttling and a lot of on the go and putting things together and so on. And I guess I haven't stopped since. So I became the woman that I was hoping to be. I think I exceeded my expectation. And but then, it's not like, oh, you get there and then that's it and you're happy ever since. Sometimes you are at the very top and people think you're at the very top and you yourself know that you're not, because you know that you're having difficulties and so on. And at the same time, when people sometimes think you're at the bottom, you also know that's not true because you've already taken steps to. So it's an up and go. I mean, just like nature is never stops. It's never stagnant. It keeps on going. You do not master your destiny. You should not have we cannot have the arrogance to think that we control our destiny. But what we can do is navigate our destiny to the best we can and go through the difficult moments and own it. I mean, to be in charge is not a aggressive statement. To be in charge is a commitment to ourselves, is owning who we are. We own our imperfection, they become assets. We own our vulnerability, we turn it into strength. Those are the most important thing I can tell you, as you are in the beginning of your life. And whether it is for your personal life, for your business life, for a brand, for your brand, if you have a brand, the most important thing is to work really hard at being true to yourself. Because if you're true to yourself, you are free. You're free even if you're in jail. So that's the best gift I can tell you, is that.
I got chills listening to that. Wow. Alexa, I got chills.
Um, so we talked about how the wrap dress really was this symbol of self-expression and of women's empowerment. Can you tell us about how, when there was a shift in your work and your brand to helping, wider society?
Wider what?
Society activism.
Oh, you mean as my work with women? Well, okay. Well, I've always been a feminist, and my mother was a feminist. I was a feminist, and I was very lucky to be a free woman. Yes, and it happened at the time. The 70s is that we discovered. So I was young, somewhere between the discovery of the pill and the beginning of AIDS. So there was a lot of freedom in those years. And so freedom is very important. And but then I got involved in an organization called Vital Voices, which is a network, a population of badass women in 184 countries that makes things happen. And then I got very involved and very inspired by those women. And then I created the DVF Awards, where I give awards and I support a lot of those women who are not well known, but who are remarkable. And I mean, every time I move them, I feel I've done nothing with my life. And it's been an ongoing thing. And now that I'm an old woman, I mean, it's, how would I like to be remembered? Maybe I would like to be remembered as a woman who became the woman she wanted to be and helped other women to be the women they want to be. And now at this stage of my life, it's about sharing my knowledge and my experience and my resource and my connections with as many people as possible.
I think oftentimes we get so lost in ourselves and forget that as humanity, we should support each other. We should help each other out. We should speak up for the right things. We should give back to organizations, give back to communities. And I think within the framework of you as Diane, within what you build at DVS, I think that legacy is said for itself, right? We wanted you to speak on that, but it's embodiment of your brand. It's embodiment of you. It's embodiment of what you created, particularly to Nicolai, what you did with the museum and the space, right? And I wanted to talk about, the importance of fashion and collaboration as it pertains to the wearer.
I think on this point, what Diane understood very, very well is that you cannot sell something to someone if you don't even know how it is on yourself and if you don't feel, and that is something that many fashion designers or designers in a way might not do. And I think if you do that, if you listen to, she basically visited, how many of them? 14 cities in 13 days when you were...
God.
And
it was like women, no man.
And she was basically saying this to me as if she was going to have a lunch somewhere. And I was, oh my God, that's huge. And this is how I understood how Diane was basically going to department stores, listening to women, asking questions, giving advices.
I really didn't have choice. I mean,
But
but it was I don't know. It was it was a European girl. Actually, I was a European princess because I had married a prince. Although we didn't stay married for so long, so I was in prison so long. But and I was traveling America. I was studying the map of America. I would get to Omaha, Pennsylvania, San Francisco, and all these things that were so exotic to me. And I would arrive there with my little bag, and and going to visit all these department stores at the time where malls didn't even exist. So you went to all these cities, and they were the home stores, and the owner of the department store would pick you up, and they used to call their customers patrons, and it was, like the community and the fashion director of the local newspaper. Usually there were 2 local newspaper, and you would do interviews, and you would go on TV, and it was so, I mean, I was living this adventure. It was, and, always on my own, But when you said it's that you said before that everyone is very busy with themselves and we should think of the world, I agree, but I also will say, don't forget yourself. I say, because you cannot take care of the world unless you really have a good relationship with yourself, because the strength comes from you. And therefore, the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. Because once you have that, every other relationship is a plus and not a must. So we all live the adventure of our lives, right? And so I lived that adventure of my life. I mean, I felt like, I was like William Loman, the salesman, going from city to city and blah, 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 blah. I wrote my diaries. I advise all of you to write your diaries, even if you never read them. It's some way of having a communion with yourself. So I write my diaries. I also had children, so I'll juggle between, being with my children, taking care of this, going to the factory, making the fittings. I mean, it was a huge adventure, and I packed in a lot before I was 30. And then you go success, and then you lose it, and you success again. And if you want to read about it, you could read my book, The Woman I Wanted to Be. You could listen to it on Audible. It's my own voice, and you know all about it. But to earn of you really live the adventure of your life. And you are here learning about fashion, or learning about business, or learning about communication, because at the end, design is all about communication. And the one advice I would tell you is, make sure you make sense. Make sure you give something that makes sense, and go for it. It's the adventure of your life. And as long as you have a good relation with yourself, and you can look at yourself in the mirror and worry about yourself, everything is fine.
Okay. Yeah, of course. I know we could end this interview at any point, because every time you answer a question, it's this poignant, amazing thought. But thank you for taking us through, various points of your career, starting in the 70s. You were also, president of the CFDA. You have so much to share, which you've done in your books. She's also an avid writer. What excites you about the future of fashion, looking ahead now?
Oh, the future.
And also, yeah, let's I'll leave it there.
Well, we are now so talking very much about, we make too many things, we throw too many things, we abuse nature. There's a lot of things that one has to address today. So I think it's important to make things that make sense, and try to make sense. It's not easy. To be young today is not easy, I'm sure. Try to make sense.
Try to make sense. Be true to yourself.
Be your best friend.
Be your best friend.
Go for it.
Go for it.
And enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. Everything, being yourself is a must, but everything else is a plus.
Well, That's a new one, but let's go to that.
No, thank you so much. We're gonna take some student questions now.
Hi there. Thank you so much, both of you, for your talk. So you were the chairwoman of the CFDA for a number of years, and I wanted to know, as a judge for the Fashion Fund competition, what were kind of the winning criteria you saw in the candidates that we could learn from as future designers or just business owners?
You know what? At the end, the most important thing is authenticity. I think that's always what wins. If you're authentic, even if you're awkward with your authenticity is what people will notice.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. You mentioned that you were not from New York when you came here and you saw the scope and started a business here. So I have two questions. Number one, what difficulty did you face in the beginning when you
What difficulties did you face?
what difficulties did you face since New York was not a home to you when you started your business? And question number two would be, what tips would you like to give to the future entrepreneurs here?
Difficulty. I mean, I was, when I came to New York, I was privileged. I mean, because I was welcome. I was immediately introduced to the right people. So those were not my difficulties. I can remember when my first dresses arrived and all the labels of the contents were written in Italian, and I was at the air in where her were, crossing the Italian and writing English, and I was pregnant and I was cold, and that was a difficult. I mean, the difficulties are different things at different time. And as far as advice for an entrepreneur, try to make sense. I mean, just try to, if you believe in what you're doing, then you believe in what you're doing. If you believe in, you can't sell something you don't believe in. It will sound fake and it won't work. So again, it just goes back to try to be as authentic as possible. Try to make time and space to focus on intention. Intention is a very important thing. And I didn't learn that word until I did Tai Chi. Intention. Focus on the intention and make it happen. Another word that I learned recently is manifestation. Manifestation. You manifest because you have an intention, you have a vision, and then you manifest it.
Also, any tips to make good connections in this industry? How to start?
Connections are very important. Connections are definitely important. But if you want it enough, this is still a country where people are much more open than... That's what I loved about this country when I came, is that, people were calling each other by the name, and there weren't so many, castes and things. I'm not sure it's so much the same now, but so just go for it. You want to meet somebody, just go for it.
Thank you so much.
Hi. So my question is actually for Nicholas. I was wondering, I know the book and the exhibit are, I think gender is a really big part in it. So I was just wondering, what was your process in approaching encapsulating the essence of being a woman?
I didn't hear well. You talked about gender, right?
Yeah, I was wondering how your process was for encapsulating the essence of a woman, because gender was such a big focus of the exhibit.
That's a very good question, actually. In the book, one author, Lydia, used the idea of feel like a woman wear a dress, which was actually one of the very first famous ad by Diane. Feel like a woman wear a dress, which is today something you would hear and maybe hear as provocative.
I'm not sure if it's politically correct anymore.
Yeah. But Lydia used this to say you can be be a man and feel like a woman wherever you want, wearing DVF, which is actually very open-minded. It was open-minded in the 70s, and it's still open-minded today in a way. So that, I think, encapsulates the very idea you're pointing out, really.
Listen, I'm very fluid in every way, so I can't imagine I would offend anyone. But if I do, I would really like to know.
Hi, Diane. I'm Adelaide, and I just wanted to say also that I feel like one really important thing that your invention of the wrap dress did was offer a choice to women in the workplace at the time to, not have to wear trousers, but, be free in the way they move their body and were in flux. And I wanted to ask if this had been your intention to really disrupt that corporate social atmosphere by offering this choice of the wrap dress, or was it sort of a happy after effect of creating this dress out of just your pure personal design choices?
I can't say I planned it all. The only thing I planned is that I wanted to become that woman that I became. That woman wore those dresses, so it was actually on the arm, if I think about it, a very personal journey that worked, and that I never said that, and that I shared that journey with millions of women. So I really have never said that before. And so looking back and to know that, that's really, I'm glad, that's really an incredible privilege. And then I do that with my words too, because as I became, let's say, as I became famous, or as I, and now as I become old, I can get away with saying a lot. And I use it. And age, age, people always think of all the disadvantages of age, but age has so many advantages. First of all, you already have it in the bank. I already have 76 years in the bank. It's done. Nobody can take that away. That's already something. But then, because of age and experience and blah, 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 and respect that you're supposed to get, you can even, you can say more what you think than maybe you could have before, even though I did it pretty much before too.
Yes. So hi, Diane. I'm Jenny.
Where are you, Jenny? Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. So given recent months, there are more white male designers getting promoted in big fashion houses like Gucci, Balenciaga, Bottega. As a feminist, as you just mentioned, what's your opinion on this? And do you have any advice for females that are working in this industry? Thank you.
First of all, I will say something that Christian Lacroix, who was a white male designer, told me. He said, men designers make costume, women designers make clothes. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, if you think about it, for example, women designers love jersey fabric. Men designers don't like jersey fabric because it doesn't look so luxurious as a beautiful. They said, but it's because the women wear them. And if you think about it, Donna Karen, Sonia Riquel, Norma Kamali, Madeleine Vionnet, Chanel, they do. So, okay, so that's about design. And in terms of being hired, right now is a time that they try to hire women. So just take advantage of that. And you're an Asian woman, so that's an advantage too. Just go for it. Well, first of all, during the 80s, I had stopped design. I mean, I had licensed everything, and I had very little control of what I did. Then I took it back again, and then I took it back again in the late 90s, and I went back to the original product. And it was, strangely enough, it was the very young people that embraced it, and that made me feel cool again. That's the same thing with Nicolai. Nicholas is a young man, loves fashion, and it makes me feel cool again. So, but being true to yourself. And then, of course, you have different creative directors, you have different CEOs, and everyone tries to be, they try to be something new. And that's always a mistake. You have to try to be true to what you are. That's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for the questions, and thank you, Diane, for participating in that. I want to say this quote before we end off. To be in charge is first a commitment to ourselves. It is owning who we are. It is respecting and trusting our character, knowing that it is forever the home and the core of our strength. With that, I want to thank you so much, you and Nicolai. Please.
Thank you.